not only doing that, but they are making that base pay retroactive to October of this last year.
Awesome.
And everybody who works for Walmart will get a bonus check to reflect the hours worked at the wage of $11 an hour. So in other words, if Sally Sue makes $10.50 an hour, she is going to get a check for every hour worked for 50 cents from right now all the way back into October.
That's amazing.
To reflect that $11 an hour wage. Why? Because Trump did what this economy needs. Everybody sits there and says, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. We've taxed the shit out of the rich. We've taxed the shit out of companies, particularly the little companies, and run them where?
Into the ground.
Overseas. Apple has turned around and come back from overseas and launched over 7,000 jobs in the past 5 months. Ford is bringing their manufacturing back. GM is bringing their manufacturing back. All of these large predatory companies that are now getting these big tax breaks and incentives are doing what? They're bringing the jobs back to America, where America is what, ladies and gentlemen? First.
Did Apple not say that they were going to put a plant somewhere in like Wisconsin so they could start making iPhones there that's going to bring like $1 billion to that part of the economy?
Over $7 billion in 4 years.
There you go.
To the upper Midwest, ladies and gentlemen. But no, Trump doesn't care about America. Let's talk about the other part of his tax referendum or tax reform program, which is larger than the one that Reagan passed, which the Senate was all up in arms against, and we're not going to pass this, and blah, 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 blah. Guess what, motherfuckers? It passed. Not only that, what does it do for average Joe American like you and me, who are making $11 to $13 an hour, barely scraping by, fighting to get by, and sitting there looking at our taxes every single paycheck going, God, why is that still being ass raped from me? It's still going to these damn illegals, paying for their college education, their Medicaid, their disability, their refugee replacement programs. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you make below a certain amount per year, you are now tax exempt. And that doesn't come at the end of the year. That comes on your check.
And did they announce how much that amount was going to be?
What do you mean? I'm going to try to look it up during the next break to see if I can find the outlines for his tax reform program. But yeah, it's I heard it on a talk show that people who are making $11, $12, $13, $14 an hour, I think it's below $45,000 a year, you are tax exempt. Do you realize what percentage of Americans that will affect?
A shit ton.
That affects probably 35 to 40% of the average consumer in America, if not more. And the average consumer in America is what? They are the ones that companies target to spend money. So what are they going to do in response? Hey, man, those shoes that my kids have been needing, really wanting, that stuff my wife's been really wanting, da-da-da-da-da. They're going to start putting more money back into the economy. The same as the companies. They start putting more jobs. They start putting more investments. They start expanding. They start increasing productivity, which increases jobs. All of this may be called trickle-down Reaganomics, but guess what? It's the best way for this country to run, and it's the way this country has run ever since the Constitution was frickin' written. Yeah, the big guy gets the piece of the pie. But you know what? When the big guy gets the piece of the pie, when he gets full, it trickles down his chin over his fat belly into the little puppies like us that are waiting at the bottom, and guess what? We get our fill too.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard of a president coming in and making the shit that way to where if you only make so much money an hour or so much money per year that you don't have to pay taxes. That's fucking amazing.
Well, I mean, and not to mention the historical not appointments he's made in the judicial courts as well as the Supreme Court. No president has ever come in this short of an amount of time and got his nominees right in there.
Yep.
Put them right in there, to include taking power from the liberals to where they cannot change the laws like they did for Obamacare and like they did for the DREAM Act and like they did for the executive order that Obama did away with the vetting process for student and work visas from the Middle East, which, by the way, he did that in 2010. And by 2012, we had lost track of over 240,000 Middle Easterners that had come over on student and work visas, and we believe none of them ever left. And none of them were ever caught.
Why would they? They had
Dearborn?
Yeah. They had their fucking buddy in office. Why would they leave? Yeah.
Exactly. And, so you have the tax reform, you have the Supreme Court nominations, you have the fact that ICE and the Immigration Department have done more deportations in the past 8 months than since the early 1990s. And they are going to be getting even more aggressive next year. And people want to sit back and scream about, oh, what about the children? Well, guess what? Here's the way I look at it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a parent and you break the law and you put your child in a position to where they are also now outside of the law, whether they are of age or not, guess what? They got to go with you.
Yep.
Everybody says, what about the children? Well, what about the parents' thought process who brought them over here illegally?
Yep.
Why don't we ever think about that?
Well,
they came over here illegally on a gamble, realizing that there is a possibility that either A, their family could be split up, or B, they could all be deported, whether or not Sally Juan Guzman was in senior high school. They could still be deported. So put it on the parents who came over here illegally. We're not a country built, structured, or founded upon the predication of being lawbreakers. We're not Iran.
Exactly. And
period.
You don't need to leave your kids over here to pile up in the orphanage homes and the rest of the people that are going to still be paying taxes to take care of them. Yeah, kids, yes, they are the angels of the earth. But you know what? Just like John said, it's their parents' fault. They came over here on a gamble. They didn't come over here the right way, to do things the right way, to pay taxes, to be a productive part of this economy. And so, therefore, why should the rest of the hard-working Americans sit here and have to pay extra for that single fact? And it's not us being hard-asses. It's not us being racist. It's us stating the fact that we should not be liable for somebody else's child. I mean, you wouldn't like it if somebody dumped a couple of kids off in your house, or if your buddy came over, spent a couple of months with you, and just decided to pop up and leave. What are you going to do with the kids? You're going to try to send them back to their family.
Exactly. Thank you, Brian. And that's the exact same analogy I give to folks whenever they want to talk about illegal aliens and how they should be given mercy and everything else. And I just look at people who make that argument and I say, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to come to your home. I'm going to break in, and I'm going to take up residence. During that time, because I'm unable to get a job, because I'm afraid if I go out there and get a job, you'll call and report me to the police, you are going to take care of my rent. You're going to take care of my half of the utilities. You're going to take care of my clothing, my food, my medical expenses, and everything else. How long are you going to allow me to stay? Well, I'm not going to allow you to stay. I'm going to call the fucking police. I'm going to shoot you. Really? Why do it for illegals who are here? Yeah, exactly. That's liberals, teeny boppers, millennials, these hair bun wearing, long beard having, I can't even change a tire or jumpstart a car idiots that are setting up to run our country by the time we're 50, 60, and 70 years old, which God, please, don't let it get that far. Scares the shit out of me. And we need a president in office right now to embed himself, to embed the policies of America for America first, to reinforce and strengthen the Constitution of the United States, to reinforce and strengthen the morals, the values, and the convictions that this country, our forefathers, fought for, to gain independence, to become our own country, to be free. That is why Donald J. Trump will win hands down in 2020.
And should be a mentor for future presidents to come on how to act towards America and America's well-being. You know, God forbid we get a liberal that's actually in office and tries to screw everything up again, and we sit here and cower because they're afraid they're going to hurt somebody's feelings because it's fucking war.
Fuck their feelings. They got a safe space. they get college days for mental health, you know.
Yeah, no shit.
I mean, we have turned, you know, and it's no wonder why until Trump took office, and even in the short months after Trump took office, it is no wonder why ISIS, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Russia, North Korea with me so short, but me so pissy, thought that they could run their mouths and do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. It is because we had a country of nothing, well, some of our country was nothing but pansies who ran around screaming, protesting, and crying and needing psychological evaluations because the word Trump was written on a sidewalk.
Michelle in the chat group said tinfoil hats too.
That too, yeah. Oh, Lord, don't get me started on the tinfoil hatters. Good night. There's a lot of you people out there that got that thing wrapped so tight, stuck your head so far in the microwave that you're beyond help. I've heard some doozies. Now, I'm going to tell you what, right here, right now, I've done seen the lizard people living underneath the crest of the earth that was put there by Reaganomics. I've done seen them. I bet one of them fucked me in the ass just a few minutes ago. Felt kind of good. Jesus.
That be from West
I've
Virginia.
heard them, folks. I mean, come on. We have a country of people who are so concerned about a video, and you've seen this video, of a police officer nudging, honking, blaring sirens, yelling, pushing, slapping a hood at a deer who is right on the shoulder marker of an obvious county or state rural highway. You can tell because of the speed of the semis and the other vehicles passing in the background, who say that the cop is just a mean, murderous bastard because he walked up and he shot the deer in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, I got hell for that reposting that video. And Michelle said, tell him I'm Ryan's mom.
Oh, Jesus. I sat there literally. One of my boys, Joe Egan, which if you're listening, Joe, what's up? Tagged me in a thread of comments under his comment on the video. And the only thing I could reply with at the bottom before I gathered my thoughts was, Joe, I am now 100 IQ points dumber for having had to have read this thread. At no point in any of their pandering or meandering did they make any form of sense, and God have mercy on your soul for doing this to me. There were people, his leg's not broken, the deer's fine. You see him walking around. At what point do you see the deer move?
You don't until he gets shot, but you can see where his leg's cut backwards. The motherfucker was broke.
I don't see where he's injured. Show me the last time a deer had its rear leg cocked up like a bassist getting ready to take a solo. at the New York Symphony. You know, show me the last time a deer that was of normal health had a puddle of blood.